Stepping aside, the embattled House Intelligence Chairman removes himself from the Russia investigation. Nuclear option. Republicans change the way the Senate operates as they push ahead with President Trump's Supreme Court pick. The Pope's plans. The Holy Father picks a surprising place to celebrate Holy Thursday next week. And remembering John Glenn. Today, the nation honors the first American to orbit the Earth. On EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, April 6, 2017. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for News from a Catholic Perspective. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Lauren Ashburn. A historic day in the Senate. Republican lawmakers trigger the nuclear option, changing Senate rules for Supreme Court nominations. It sets up a confirmation vote for Neil Gorsuch tomorrow. Capitol Hill correspondent Jason Calvi reports on today's landmark moment. Jason?
Wyatt, the top Republican accuses Democrats of trying to block a highly qualified nominee. So he says Democrats forced his hand. Supreme Court filibusters have been nearly unheard of here in the Senate, but in this explosive political atmosphere, the unprecedented filibuster met today with unprecedented rule change. First, Judge Gorsuch didn't get the 60 votes needed to get past a Democratic filibuster.
The yeas are 55, the nays are 45. The motion is not agreed to.
With Democrats blocking Judge Gorsuch under Senate rules.
We need to restore the norms and traditions of the Senate and get past this unprecedented partisan filibuster.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell asked to apply a 2013 precedent of then Majority Leader Democrat Harry Reid.
It's time to change the Senate before this institution becomes obsolete.
Reid changed Senate rules to say all judges except Supreme Court nominees could pass with just a simple majority. Today, Senate Republicans applied that precedent to Supreme Court nominees, too.
To me, it just looks like a continuation of the Harry Reid rule.
We cannot destroy the political system if one side is adverse to a judge only because of partisan reasons.
It's a bad, very sad day for the Senate.
Democrats say Republicans have forever hurt the Senate and the Supreme Court.
There will be less faith in the Supreme Court because it will be seen as a political body.
Well, that's their historic mistake, but we are not going to accommodate it by pretending that 60 votes isn't necessary to protect the American public from extreme views being represented on the Supreme Court.
Though he is supported by the American Bar Association and other mainstream legal organizations.
His record is very, very conservative.
Judge Gorsuch did rule in favor of Hobby Lobby and the Little Sisters of the Poor in their cases against the Obama administration's contraceptive mandate. We're expecting the final Senate vote to actually confirm the judge tomorrow, and he has enough votes. With 55 senators supporting him, that means Gorsuch could take his seat on the Supreme Court later this month. Wyatt?
Correspondent Jason Calvi reporting on it from Capitol Hill. Thanks, Jason. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes steps aside from the Russia investigation, at least temporarily. The California Republican faced ethics complaints for discussing classified material after a secret meeting at the White House. It all started with Russia's meddling in last year's presidential election. Fellow committee member Adam Schiff says Nunes wants to give the group a fresh start.
I just want to express my appreciation for what the chairman decided to do. I'm sure it was a very difficult decision for him, but as he mentioned, I think it is in the best interest of the investigation.
Texas Congressman Mike Conaway will temporarily take charge of the probe. He'll be assisted by South Carolina's Trey Gowdy and Florida's Tom Rooney. President Trump is expected to press China's leader on trade in North Korea when the two begin meeting tonight in Florida. Critics question Trump's decision to hold the summit at his Mar-a-Lago resort instead of the White House or Camp David, less expensive options. The president will also aim to quiet critics who call him inexperienced and unprepared for the meetings with his Chinese counterpart. Trump wants China to rein in North Korea, which is developing its nuclear arsenal. The White House says the president prefers to discuss sensitive matters privately, so it's not certain if President Trump will bring up other issues like human rights and religious freedom. In a land without religious freedom, millions of Catholics in China practice their faith underground in defiance of the Communist Party. A state-approved church is open to all, but is not loyal to Rome. The Chinese government is its authority.
Chinese Catholics are not free to worship as they please. They need to worship in churches controlled by the state administration of religion, therefore what are called patriotic churches.
For Catholics loyal to the magisterium, this means practicing their faith in hidden churches. When Pope Francis visited South Korea in 2014, it gave hope to many that the pontiff might consider a visit to China, too.
We have to wait for the China government to have full confidence that they can allow a complete mature civil society and merge in China. Then the Catholic Church can enjoy full freedom.
The spokesman for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs addressed the matter as recently as last year, saying China is sincere in improving relations between China and the Vatican, and we have been sparing no efforts to this end. Recognizing the Vatican as the head of the Chinese Church would mean granting it authority over and above the Communist Party, a move the state is unlikely to support. But there is still cause for hope.
At the end of the day, what makes the Communist Party so uneasy and why it's suspicious of religions is because it knows that religions have a more powerful, motivating hold on people than they do.
And joining us now to talk all things China is Michael Pillsbury, Senior Fellow and Director of the Center for Chinese Strategy at the Hudson Institute. You're also the author of the 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower. Michael, during the campaign, Trump had some pretty harsh rhetoric for China, and he's kind of backed off a little bit, although he said that this could be a really important meeting. How difficult is it to be able to really make some ground here with the Chinese president?
Well, it's almost impossible. There's a lot of wishful thinking that I and others have had for 40 years that one meeting can somehow become a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. What we're finding often is that the Chinese very patiently simply outweight American presidents. I don't expect any confrontation. I don't expect this will be a hostile summit. I don't think Mr. Trump will embarrass China's president with a tweet or something like that. But it's hard to be optimistic about any real breakthroughs because they get away with at these summits so much with rhetoric. Right. So I'm sure he's going to promise to help us with North Korea. I'm sure he'll say China's doors are open for more trade. You know, things we want to hear, he will definitely say. But many times in the summit preparations I've been involved in, the promise is simply not fulfilled over the next few years.
Well, you mentioned North Korea. You know it's going to be one of the big issues here. What does Trump have to do you think, to get China to really rein in North Korea in terms of its nuclear arsenal?
Well, I think he has to be realistic about our relationship with North Korea, which is close to zero. We have no embassy there. We don't have diplomatic relations. We have no trade. And China's relationship. North Korea, in many ways, is China's closest ally. They have an ally relationship. China has a huge embassy in North Korea. They do lots of trade. They provide the majority of Chinese energy. So that contrast is really quite stark. We're out in the cold with the North Koreans with a hostile relationship. China wants to be kind of a broker. They proposed several ideas that if America, for example, most recently, last month, the Chinese said, look, if you Americans stop having your military exercises, we can get the North Koreans maybe to suspend their missile tests. That's the kind of role China wants to play, a broker between North Korea and America. So it's going to be almost impossible to get them to do something really, really tough on North Korea.
It's also going to be tough. You mentioned the other issue, which is trade.
Yes.
How difficult is it going to be to actually get China to sort of play a level field here in terms of trade?
Well, to get them to say it will be very easy. I expect they will say that immediately. They can also offer investment. They can offer they've been joking with us over the last couple of years that we would like to buy more American products and reduce your trade deficit, but you won't sell us your high-tech things. We need super high technology. Then we'll buy more from you. So this kind of discussion, I think, is very fruitful, very useful for Mr. Trump to have. The Chinese sought this meeting. I think they've been saying in the newspapers, there's two factions in the White House, the kind of bad guys that they don't like, and then some good guys. And they think this meeting is going to show President Trump that China really is kind of cooperative toward him.
We'll have to see how it all plays out. Michael Pillsbury, Chinese strategist at the Hudson Institute, also the author of the 100-Year Marathon. Thanks so much for your analysis.
Thank you.
Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. ISIS shoots down an Iraqi army helicopter over Mosul, killing both crew members on board. Officers say ground fire brought the chopper down. Video shows a ball of fire falling from the sky. This is the first time ISIS has shot down a helicopter since Iraqi troops started pushing the militants out of Mosul. Russian security agents arrest 3 people in connection with this week's attack in St. Petersburg subway. The suspects are all from the same area in Central Asia as the suicide bomber. Police say they had to deactivate a bomb in the apartment where the suspects lived. 13 people plus the attacker died in Monday's attack. Dozens more were injured. No group has claimed responsibility. Initial tests of samples from the victims of a suspected chemical attack in Syria indicate they were exposed to the highly toxic nerve agent sarin gas. Tuesday's attack killed more than 80 people, including children. The Trump administration and others blame the attack on the Syrian government forces. Damascus denies the allegation. Pope Francis will wash the feet of inmates at a prison near Rome for Holy Thursday Mass next week. Each year, the Holy Father has picked a different place around Rome to remember the Last Supper. Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for Catholic News Agency, joins us now with more on this story. Alan, what do we know about this prison Pope Francis will visit?
Well, Wyatt, this is the Pagliano prison, about an hour-and-a-half drive south of Rome. It's an ex-castle that now houses about 70 inmates, of whom the majority are collaborators of justice. These are people who, in exchange for reduced prison sentences, have decided to cooperate with Italian authorities to bring down the Italian mafia. In this prison, it is a maximum security facility, so there isn't going to be any sort of a public celebration when the Pope is there. He's going to be just there in a private, on a private occasion to celebrate Mass with these inmates.
Well, Alan, noting those inmates, will he use this visit, do you think, to reiterate his criticism of the mafia?
Wyatt, he's been very vocal in criticizing the mafia, also excommunicating members of the mafia unless they convert. In this case, this will be an opportunity for him to go directly to people who are actually already working against the mafia. So it's really in the gesture that this is a special visit to promote that message, encourage work against the mafia. These are people who, at their own risk and the risk of their own families' lives, are collaborating with Italian authorities.
Well, as you know, Alan, Pope Francis has kept up a consistent outreach to prisoners since his papacy began. What message, overall message, do you think he's trying to send?
Well, he brings a message of hope, of reconciliation to people. He also wants to go out and visit prison inmates in a response to the gospel. He does it when he goes on papal visits abroad. He's also done it across Italy, visiting numerous structures. This has become a yearly occasion of visiting people who are particularly vulnerable. On Holy Thursday, he has visited a prison also in the past. If you think to last year, to the Holy Year of Mercy, Wyatt, he actually made a special provision for prison inmates to be able to live the Holy Year within their cells, calling the cell door a holy door on its own. So really thinking about prison inmates during that Year of Mercy in particular. When we see it just continually in his outreach to prison chaplains as well, he really does love inmates, and he wants people to reach out to them and be with them as well.
Pretty powerful how he can bring the message of mercy and the outreach together. Alan Holdren, Rome Bureau Chief for the Catholic News Agency. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Wyatt.
A big loss in Hollywood tonight. Legendary comedian Don Rickles, the king of insults, has died. For more than 50 years, Rickles headlined casinos and nightclubs from Las Vegas to Atlantic City. He also appeared often on late-night TV talk shows. His longtime publicist and friend says Rickles died at his Los Angeles home of kidney failure. He was 90 years old. Coming up, the plan to replace Obamacare.
We're helping bring down the premiums, but also protecting those with pre-existing conditions.
Republicans unveil a new health care amendment. And private meeting, why the head of Planned Parenthood visited with Ivanka Trump. Welcome back. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Lauren Ashburn. House Speaker Paul Ryan has not given up on a health care reform bill. He announced an additional $15 billion plan to lower premiums and help insurers cover the cost of the seriously ill.
We have come together on a new amendment that we all believe will lower premiums and provide added protections for those facing real challenges gaining access to affordable care. This brings us closer to the final agreement that we all want to achieve.
Speaker Ryan says lawmakers have more work to do after backing away from their health care reform bill 2 weeks ago. Joining us now is Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers, House Republican Conference Chair. Representative Rodgers, you stood alongside Speaker Paul Ryan today. Is the new amendment to the health care bill enough to bring Republicans together to pass a wider health care reform bill?
It's certainly a step in the right direction. This is really coming down to protecting those with pre-existing conditions. This particular bill, this particular amendment to our overall health care bill is ensuring that we're helping bring down the premiums, but also protecting those with pre-existing conditions. And we can unite around that. There's still more work to be done, member to member, colleague to colleague, to get us to a place that we can bring the overall bill to the floor for a vote.
So when it comes to health care, you also introduced this bipartisan legislation this week called ABLE 2.0. It's meant to help people with disabilities be more financially independent. Why is this bill needed, do you think?
This is exciting legislation. This is about empowering those with disabilities. ABLE, the ABLE Act was signed into law about a year ago, and it was worked on for many years, but it provides for tax-free savings accounts for those with disabilities, which means that an individual, a child with disabilities, can have others put money away tax-free, similar to a 529 to save for college or an IRA to save for retirement. This is providing for savings for someone with disabilities for later on in life, to provide for education, transportation, housing, ultimately meaning that they can live independently. ABLE 2.0 expands it to allow an individual with disabilities to work and then take that money and put it into the tax-free savings account up to a certain level. It expands the ages. It's expanding the eligibility so that we can have more that are living independently and hopefully working, because we know how much work is. We know how important a job is in our life, and it's so much more than the paycheck. It's what gives us purpose and dignity and an opportunity for a better life.
Well, on a personal note, you have a 9-year-old son, Cole, who has Down syndrome. How could this bill make Cole's life better?
So I was 35 and single when I was elected to Congress, and Cole is my oldest child now, and he does have Down syndrome, and I've learned so much because of Cole. Now, when Cole was born, I was told, don't put any assets in his name, for example, because it might jeopardize his benefits. And I really felt like that was the wrong message to send new parents ready to sacrifice and give, your child every opportunity possible. So this legislation would allow Brian and me to set money aside for him, like we're doing for our daughters through 529 accounts. We can do it through the 529 ABLE, and then when Cole graduates and hopefully goes on to college, but when he gets done with school, this would be money set aside to help him with his housing, his transportation, his education, and ultimately now he could work and still protect that money.
It is a very interesting piece of legislation, and I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it a little bit later. Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers from the state of Washington, thanks so much for talking to us about it.
Thanks for having me.
Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards takes aim at Ivanka Trump following a private meeting to find common ground on abortion. Politico says the president's daughter met with Richards in the weeks after the inauguration, hoping to ease tensions between the administration and Planned Parenthood. Richards has since called out Ivanka for her lack of involvement with the Republicans' proposed health care bill, which would defund the nation's largest abortion provider. The report says the two have not spoken since that meeting. Up next, applauding America's wounded warriors.
Melania and I are deeply honored to join you all today and to stand here among real heroes.
See the White House ceremony to honor injured troops and remembering astronaut John Glenn. See the touching moment at today's final farewell.
Vi invito a prendere oggi 5 minuti. 10 minuti.
Pope Francis wants us to reflect on our lives to see the beauty of God. During Mass this morning, the Holy Father said even when difficulties happen in a person's life, you can still see God's love. Welcome back. I'm Wyatt Goolsby in for Lauren Ashburn. The President and Vice President salute wounded warriors before the start of their annual Soldier Ride.
Welcome you all to the White House.
The First Lady and Second Lady joined today's ceremony at the White House, where President Trump thanked the troops for their service.
You've earned our freedom with your sweat and your blood and your incredible sacrifice. We salute you, we salute your service, and we salute the flag you have so courageously protected.
The Soldier Ride is a multi-day bike ride in partnership with the Wounded Warrior Project and is designed to empower veterans and injured service members. Family members gather at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia to say goodbye to astronaut and Ohio Senator John Glenn. A military trumpeter played taps and mourners recited the 23rd Psalm as steady rain fell. A sweet moment was caught on camera when Glenn's widow, Annie, gave a Marine a kiss on the cheek after he presented her with an American flag. John Glenn gained fame as the first American to orbit Earth. He passed away in December at the age of 95. As Congress struggles to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, some Catholics are choosing an alternative health care option. Joining us now is Chris Faddis, co-founder of Solidarity Health Share. Chris, what is a health share? How exactly does it work?
So a health share is essentially a cooperative where members choose to forego insurance and we choose to take care of our own health care needs. And by doing so, we pay a monthly contribution, and then our dollars go to help other members with their health care.
So in that sense, is this an alternative to health insurance, or do you still need to have some form of health
No,
insurance?
this is an option that people can choose. My family, personally, we take care of our health care all with health care sharing. So we participate in that. All of our needs are met. Our child is on her way, and all of those are met by the members.
So I know Paul Ryan and some of the other folks have introduced an amendment providing high-risk pools to subsidize insurance covers for those who are seriously ill.
Right.
Is this kind of the same thing as a health share?
No, because it's still based on the third-party payer insurance model. So essentially what they're proposing is that the government's going to give private insurance companies $15 billion to help subsidize the cost of pre-existing conditions. And that's one of the biggest problems. The problem before Obamacare was the third-party payer system, during Obamacare and after. What we do is we go direct to, it's a consumer-driven healthcare system. So our members talk to their doctor, we work out the price with them, we help negotiate. There's no third parties in the middle, and we just facilitate the sharing. And that's the big difference. When you put pre-existing pools into the health insurance system, it's going to cost 70% more than just if we went direct to the doctors and the hospitals that we need to go to and get the care we needed.
You have a personal experience because your wife, Angela, died after a battle with cancer. How did that experience shape your view on healthcare?
You know, it was very difficult. Insurance was hard to deal with. We were left with the bag in a lot of ways. We saw that the healthcare system, they really wanted to help us. The doctors, the hospitals wanted to help us, but they couldn't give us everything we needed. At a certain point, we actually had to raise money to pay for treatment that would prolong her life. And online, we had 400 people raised the money and paid for her care, and that's what extended her life. She lived another 12 months past her prognosis at that point. And that's what really inspired the idea behind starting a Catholic health share, was this idea that, wow, this Christian community, this Catholic community joined with us, they prayed for us, they helped us, and we took care of each other's needs. And that was the inspiration behind starting Solidarity Health Share.
It seems like this healthcare idea is really starting to grow in the United States. Why do you think it's on the rise?
Well, I think we see now that the problem is this third-party payer system, and it's only going to continue getting worse. The prices continue to increase. The bill that Congress has proposed has proven that it's just going to increase even more. And people realize that if we go back to where we respect our choices with our doctor, we talk to our doctor, we work with our doctor, and we make those healthcare decisions, we pay directly to the physicians in the hospitals, take all the middleman stuff out of there that raises the cost, and then people get the healthcare they need, and we don't have all the waste and unnecessary spending that we have today. So people are recognizing that healthcare sharing has grown from about 200,000 families before the ACA to 1 million families nationwide doing healthcare sharing continuously, and their bills are being paid.
It is interesting to hear about the program. Chris Faddis, co-founder of the Solidarity Health Share. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we thank you for watching tonight. For the entire EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Wyatt Goolsby. Good night, and God bless.